Welcome to One Take Wine. This week, I'm turning to a little bit of experimentation, or at least producers who are into experimentation, although not your usual suspect, at least as far as I'm concerned. Usually I associate that with Vin Nature or the New World or something like that. But this week I've got quite a classic producer, I would say, from Côte Rôtie, Jean-Luc Jamet, and he's produced these little puppies, a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay. They're both Vin de France, I suppose. One of them is a Colline Rodanienne, and the other one's Vin de France, the Chardonnay. Very, very interesting. The Chardonnay is 15.5%, just by the by. And the Pinot Noir is 12%. I don't know if I should be excited or frightened or what. I think it'll be super interesting to see an approach to Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from Côte Rôtie. How about you? Let's get it on. What do we got in the glass? Check this out. I mean, look at that color, how light it is. Some green tints, which is kind of interesting. And then a very, very peachy nose. It reminds me of a Collier on the fruit. Okay, I know the label, I know where this wine's from, but I'm still a little bit, I'm kind of astounded at the nose. Just the peachy fruit thing, fuzzy, peachy fruit. Okay, there's almost burnt butter quality to it, and then maybe as if that peach was not ripe, so that kind of astringency. Okay, it's better than when I first opened it. There isn't a lot to this. There isn't a lot to the finish. There's a real dustiness, almost in that sort of tannic-like. There's a real lack of acidity, and you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a New World Chardonnay that's punched up. You know, it's elevated. It's got the big buttery presence about it, but no acidity, like zero. No presence in that sense. Nothing to kind of hold the thing up at a higher level. It just sort of flabs out a bit. This is not to say that the flavors are not enjoyable, but it's not very long. It's a pretty simple fruit. I can't taste the alcohol, which is nice. I'm going to happily drink it, but at the same time, this probably didn't need to be made. I'm glad it was, because it's interesting, but I don't think it needed to be made. You know, it's not one of those experimentations where, of course, this makes total sense. We're talking about Chardonnay made in Côte Rôtie, and it doesn't really cut it. All right, let's move on. Same producer, different year, 2018, Schiste Pinot Noir. Lovely little nose, maybe a little bit muddy, but also a very, very ripe cherry fruit. This is the label, 12%, which is a little bit more my speed. I think this is interesting. I think a red wine from a Pinot Noir in the Rhône. Maybe, I don't know. I'm surprised at 12%. I mean, you know, it's usually pretty sunny and they're pretty high alcohol wines. But I don't know what the conditions were like. Yeah, so like I said, there's that, it is a black cherry, dark cherry nose. And then a bit of a muddiness appearance. Some herb, some earthiness to it, you know, some real, almost beetroot earthiness in the background. A little bit of a charmer we got here. Little charmer. Yeah, that fruit really translates well in the palate. Wonderful. Wonderful kind of a cherry thing. This has that roasted quality, a little bit of charcoal almost. And I love that. I mean, that is a real compliment to a well-made, fruity Pinot Noir, I have to say. And then there's a lovely, refreshing, green, herby feel to it. Again, not a lot of acidity. a little low in that sense, and so a little low in the stature of the wine. It isn't as lifted as it may be in a few years, who knows, or that it might be in Burgundy, but at the same time, wow, can't fault this. Lovely, some black licorice even. It is kind of funny because it feels like a Côte Rôtie that's been translated into a Pinot Noir body. Although the body's it's not completely light, but it is obviously a lot lighter than any Côte Rôtie you'll ever try. It's just, and it is more Pinot than Côte Rôtie, of course it is. But that little charcoaly thing to it, that asphalty charcoaly thing, kind of gives it a distinctive, almost blunt edge to it that is quite nice. It's not out of place here. And I think this style in the Pinot Noir was a little bit more successful for my palate than the Chardonnay. Either way, you gotta love these guys, who try things. Why not? Let me just share with you some of the things that I've interwebbed and found out a little more about both of them. The Pinot Noir Schiste, it's called. It's from the Valais Plateau, spicy wine, pure Pinot Noir. Jamais as an icon, it produces some of the most exquisite wines of the Côte Rôtie. Agreed. The Schiste vineyard is ideally located above Ampuis, on soils of schist origin, of course, from vines of about 10 years. It's pretty young. But of course, there wouldn't be like a huge tradition or a history of Pinot Noir there. Manual harvest, passage in stainless steel for 15 days, and then aged sur lit under the vine leaves for 7 months in 50% oak barrel, 10% new, and 50% stainless steel tank. Okay, this is a lot of work, in my opinion, for what the result is. But okay, well, who am I? I'm not a winemaker. The wine is then assembled without filtration. Yeah, of course. The Pinot Noir is powerful and deep. No. With hints of raspberry and cherry. Sure. Smoked meat and barbecue. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's that beautiful barbecue charcoaly thing that I quite like about it. That gives it it's a difference maker, to be honest. In the mouth, crunchy red fruits. Maybe not with time. And earthy, spicy tannin, sure. Ideal with game dishes, smoked meats, and grilled vegetables. Other than the vegetables, I'm not too sure. I think it'll get overtaken. I'd stick to the Côte Rôtie if I was going with the meat dishes, that's for sure. My personal opinion. Now on to the Chardonnay. So at a different spot on the interwebs, here's a little description of it. Iconic producer, blah, blah, blah. This year he has released a trial Chardonnay alongside of the rest of his range, as he branches out from the strict rulings of their own AOC, only producing 67 bottles. I'll get back to this for the whole vintage. This is a strong new entry into the Jamais collection, made from a few rows near the Valais vineyard, so very close to the Pinot Noir, high altitude above the town of Ampuis. The nose opens up with a fresh toffee note, a bouquet of acacia flowers, light citrus in the background, some crushed black stones. The aromas are lifting and giving with both a sense of richness and some freshness. The attack on the palate is rich, concentrated, and delivers further notes of fresh toffee, light fresh oak notes, lifted flower notes, light bitterness to bring freshness to the finish. It's long and persistent, drink from 20 to 26 plus. Okay, I don't think they tasted the same wine I tasted. But I mean, if I just go by this description, it's nowhere near what it leaned way more towards the peach than it did towards the citrus. It did not have a long and persistent finish. That's blatantly wrong, in my opinion. Light fresh oak notes, nah. Lifted flower notes, no. I think it's over the attempt at extraction here, which didn't unfortunately work because it doesn't have the underpinning acidity and freshness to it. The aromas are lifting and giving with both a sense of richness and some freshness. No. 67 bottles. Now, that's what kind of made me think about this. Why would you even commercialize 67 bottles? I mean, if it's to get a reading on what the public is after and things like that, I get it. But at the same time, I'm a little bit confused as to why you wouldn't just share it with friends or with journalists or whatever. I mean, 67 bottles, and they weren't expensive. Like, it's not like they're $1,000 a bottle or anything like that. They're under 50 euros. Quite a lot under, I think, even. Or at least mine were when I got it at auction. Same with the Pinot Noir, was even less than that. It was, in the 20 euro range or 25 euro range. It wasn't very much money at all. The Pinot Noir, I can see the case for a little bit more because it is a different style of Pinot Noir, and it comes through as a fairly good quality wine. I mean, I think it's a little Beaujolais-ish, in a way, just with the fruit, the vibrancy of the fruit. And I love that barbecue sensation. With the Chardonnay, I have less positive things to say about it, and I question why you would even go to market with 67 bottles. As I said, I'm not going to repeat that again, but just my opinion, my observation. Hey, have you tried these or something like that? What do you think of some of your favorite producers kind of getting into experimentation at this level? For me, it's quite okay. I don't mind doing this. Like, it's interesting, and I like the idea that we're 200 kilometers south of Burgundy. We're producing typical Burgundian grapes. I think that's very interesting, especially in the age of climate change and, everybody arguing that Burgundy is going to lose its ability to keep the wines fresh and to create the wines that it's been able to in the past because of the changing climate. And yet here we are 200 kilometers south in a much warmer, I would argue, appellation. I don't know what the little climactic thing around Ampuis is, but maybe it's cooler, maybe it's fresher. If you know something about that, or you can have some insights, please do drop them in the comments. I'd be really interested to find out if anybody else has tasted them, these wines, and if you have the same impressions if you did. Or if you saw them on the shelf, would you buy them? Would you be even tempted to try them? That's what I have for this time. Thanks a lot for watching. Hey, stay thirsty, and we'll see you next time.